Hello and welcome. My name is Steve Pugh. If we don't know each other, I do something called a growth strategy podcast. And what I try and do is introduce you to interesting people that I think can help your business or career. And basically, it's just a chance for me to chat to interesting people that I kind of see in the network and doing their thing. Some of you might know I have a business course called the Roadmap MBA, but basically with that, I like to talk to real people that have real businesses. It's great when you see stuff on YouTube and Stephen Bartlett and Elon Musk and all these, big people. But actually, for most people, and 99% of people, you kind of want to hear from people that you relate to and, that kind of thing. So that's the angle I kind of take today. So I'm going to introduce you to Laura, and we're going to talk about her business and the inspiration and that kind of thing. And then likewise, also so I'd like to dig into people's backstories and how did they get started and what would they like at school. Because actually, you'll have a lot of people who are at school now that might see this on YouTube. And it's just trying to inspire people to, kind of, if they're interested in business, this might be interesting. So if you want to join us for the next kind of 30, 40 minutes, it'd be great to have you. If you drop a comment in the chat, it pops up on my screen. So if you've got any questions for Laura, please kind of let me know. And Laura, I'm just going to bring you in. There we go. So everyone can now see you and hear you. Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hello, thanks for having me. It's really good to be here.
No, it's cool. It's a pleasure. I'm trying to think how I first, because obviously we're both on LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
I just like to, look through and see what people are doing. And I think I always massively respect anyone that genuinely does do their own thing because it's so difficult to do. But then almost around that, when you get a lot of people that do like passion projects and they work on interesting topics, your stuff really kind of stood out. So would you like to give a quick 2-minute overview on you and your background in the business before we go into a bit more kind of detail? Is that cool?
Yep. So I'm Laura Wood. I am one of the co-founders and marketing director at a company called Invisible Creations. Invisible Creations is all about design for dignity. It's about creating accessible products that you would find kind of around the home that just help support people to live more independently and well for longer, whether that's through aging or disability. So we actually a very new business. We only started last January 2020. And it was from kind of a passion project. It was something that I felt kind of moved by and inspired by, and did quit the very safe, stable day job to kind of pursue. So we're still early days. We're kind of 18 months in, and have survived a pandemic and still here to see what's going on. So yeah, that's, I guess, just a little really quick overview of me and the business.
No, it's cool. I would say I don't know where to start, but we have a structure that, so did you said like a proper day job. Did you choose to leave that to start the business by choice, or was it redundancy or something else that almost made you jump? Because this is a really key question that for me, I was in it with an employer that morally didn't feel right. And I'll be honest, I was looking around for a while. That then the stars aligned and I did it. But, it took a few different things. But it's really super brave to choose to make that jump. So I'm just interested.
Yeah, I guess I've done it twice in my life, left jobs. I used to be a teacher. That was kind of my first career that I had, and kind of did it for about 5 years and then realized that it just wasn't for me. I didn't feel passionate enough about it. It wasn't something that really kind of drove me. And I just quit that when I was 25, without a job to go to. And then kind of looked at, well, what are my options? What do I like doing? And went into working for social housing providers, because they've got that real social heart, that purpose, that doing something for people to really make a difference. I really like that. So it wasn't the first time that I've left a job without having risk attached to it. So I was actually working for a housing association at the time, and they were really supportive, helped me with the idea and the innovation. They actually put me on the project that a few of us came up with the idea. So I actually really loved working there. So it wasn't that I wanted to kind of leave that job, or I was looking to do anything else, but I felt so passionate about Invisible Creations and about the work that it could do and it could achieve, I just kind of took the decision to leave, and kind of help create the business. So it was a scary one, a risky one. It's still a risky one because we're still only 18 months old. We've still got a long way to go before it's successful. But I think for me, I always really strongly believe that, if you're passionate about something, if you've got a vision, if you believe in it, then you're better to just go for it and take the risk than not. So kind of
Wow,
where I am
I've got my
today.
soundbite there. That's it. Interview's finished now. But but it's so true, but like it's a ballsy move, and it's almost a lot of people are reluctant entrepreneurs where they have something change and they use it as the chance, guilt free but it's I genuinely respect the hustle and stuff as well. I've got loads of questions, but I'm going to save them until I kind of walk through. What were you like at school? I'm guessing you've always been quite entrepreneurial just by what you've said.
Yeah, I think I've always been like really headstrong and really kind of, if I believe in something or if I am passionate about it, then that's kind of what I'll put all of my energy into. And I was very much kind of like, if there was subjects that I liked and that I was good at and that I enjoyed, that would be all of my energy and all of my time. And then things like maths, and I still hate it. I still have to use a calculator on my phone for absolutely everything. There's kind of, there's things in the background that if I haven't got that passion or belief, then I just wasn't very good at it, basically. So I think it's kind of, it doesn't matter if you're not very good at certain things.
Hmm.
I think it's just knowing what your strengths are and then going for them. And that's, I guess, what I did at school without realizing that I put all of my energy into the areas that have actually helped me
Hmm.
succeed today. And that it didn't matter that there was some areas that I wasn't very good at, because they haven't, I can use a calculator on my phone. It doesn't matter. It hasn't held me back in life.
But I must say, so I also use my phone calculator, and but it works, and that's the whole kind of point. Did you go to college? Did you go to uni? Did you go straight into a job?
So I did the traditional, went to school, went to sixth form, then went to university. And I think because English was always kind of what I
Hmm.
really enjoyed, I loved literature, loved all of that kind of creativity that came with that. Um, that's how I ended up falling into teaching, really, because
Okay.
it was like, oh, I've done an English degree. What do I do? Become an English teacher. And it was very much a path that I
Yeah.
thought that I should do. And then obviously kind of once I'd got a bit older and realized that it was okay to take risks, and it was okay that you didn't have your path all mapped
Hmm.
out for you,
Hmm.
and it was okay to make mistakes, I kind of then obviously took a turn and just kind of made my own choices and
Cool.
moved forward from there.
I've got to ask, which uni?
So I went to Leeds Uni for my first year and then transferred to York for my second 2 years.
No, cool. I always used to find it funny because I went to uni in Sheffield, and in all of I don't know if you're a sports person, I can see some golf clubs behind you, but a lot of our northern leagues. So I used to play every Wednesday at Leeds Met, York, Sunderland, Newcastle, Northumbria. So I've been coming up to the northeast for 20 odd years, and I've always kind of loved it. And it's just, I, the whole point of this is to, for people to get to know you a little bit. But actually, it's often the things about you and things that you say are what builds your personal brand, and almost people will remember you because you went to Leeds then York, because there'll be people that watch this that also did the same. And I'm just
Yeah.
always intrigued, just kind of people's own journeys and paths and stuff. So you went from English degree to into teaching. Then I guess you went from there to social housing just because teaching wasn't really for you.
Yeah.
And then how did you? Obviously, we've talked about the business. What was the inspiration for starting the business? Because then we can pivot onto more businessy stuff. Is that cool?
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite a unique story, to be honest. So I worked for a housing association, and they were doing kind of the whole social housing sector. Were doing an innovation program. So they wanted to do a 16-week program that was very much like being on The Apprentice. That's all I can compare it to, because there was times where we'd be in a taxi on the phone to each other, like thinking, oh my God, this is exactly like being on The Apprentice. And what they did is they brought together kind of, I guess, people that they thought had entrepreneurial
Hmm.
kind of spirit,
Hmm.
to have a look at some of the kind of biggest challenges that society is facing. So things like poverty,
Hmm.
homelessness, aging, some of those really big issues. And they kind of put us into groups across the country. We were based in Leeds for 16 weeks. And we were given the challenge of aging, and we were kind of given this, how do we support our residents to live more independently in their homes for longer? That was kind of like the strapline we were given. So we just had a total blank canvas. So there were 6 of us that were being thrown together, different backgrounds, completely different job roles, different ages, and just kind of said, solve this problem, come up with a solution, please. And super daunting for us because, you know, none of us had really worked in aging before. It wasn't something we knew a lot about, but I actually think that worked in our advantage because we didn't have any preconceptions. We kind of could come at it from a completely fresh perspective. So we were given this kind of 16-week period to look at different ideas, and we tried to solve the whole world. We thought, you know, initially we were like, oh, let's come up with an idea that solves absolutely every problem someone can experience as they start to grow old. Obviously, we had 16 weeks, completely unrealistic, couldn't do it. So we then kind of said, actually, you know, I think just turned 30, so I was having my own crisis of aging, but at a different level. So we were kind of saying we don't have those life experiences that people who are aging have. So where do we look? Where do you go for people that are experiencing this? Generally, you go to the people that you know, family, friends. And my gran, she's not with us any longer, but she has been the inspiration for everything that we've done. So she was one of the first people I went to kind of have a look at, you know, what are you actually struggling with in your house? What are the things you like? What don't you like? What are the challenges? And that combined with a bunch of research that we did that said that minor adaptations to the home can actually make the biggest difference to keeping people supported, independent, mobile. And that's the things like the plastic grab rails that you'll see kind of on the outside of people's houses, in their bathrooms. They're the things that if we put those in someone's home can prevent falls, prolong independence, all of those really great things. However, there's a reason that we're not getting them installed often enough. We're not doing it early enough. And my gran was the perfect example of this. I kind of went to her and said, you know, why aren't you getting these things installed? You need them. And for her, it was like, well, have you seen them? Take a look at them. They're horrible. They remind me of a hospital. They make me feel like an old woman. And she was 87, but she was, you know, you only say, you know, you're as old as you feel. She was still kind of up for drinking Prosecco and having pizza on a Friday night, and she wanted to go shopping all the time. And her lifestyle was that of, you know, not someone that wants to feel like an 87-year-old woman. She wanted to feel like she was still in her 30s. So why does she want something in her home that is a constant reminder of the things that she can't do anymore, a loss of independence, that stigma that you're an older person, that you've got a disability? So for her, that was a big issue. When we realized actually that's a huge issue across the whole country, is that, you know, people, and across the world, it's much bigger than just us. There's so many products and services for older people, for disabled people, that are just packed with negative stigma. There's so much negativity around these products that exist. You know, the market that's created has just fostered those negative stereotypes. So, you know, we were like, why is this being allowed to happen? You know, why have we got all of these products that do make people feel really bad? It is affecting people's mental health. So we kind of said, actually, is the solution not really simple? Don't we just design better, design for dignity, just create products that I would be equally proud to have in my home as my gran or anyone else would have in their home, despite their ability or their age? So we came up with a suite of products that are kind of dual purpose products. So they're things that completely blend into the home, things that you wouldn't notice or would stick out as a disability or mobility product. So it's things like a toilet roll holder, a shelf, a towel rail, things that you would potentially have in the bathroom anyway, but actually we've just combined them with a support element. So actually you can grab onto them if you slip in the shower. You can use the loo roll if you need to help to get off the toilet or on. So really simple solutions. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing, you know, huge, but actually something really simple can make a massive difference. And then my favorite one, my gran's favorite one, was the plant pot holder that goes on the outside of the house to help you get in and out of that step. And the thing with that one is that carries the most negative stigma because it's on the outside of someone's home. And generally, that's seen as a bit of a label that there's an older or disabled person living in that property. So that person then can become a target for doorstep crime, which does happen quite a lot. And again, it's kind of ironic that a product that's supposed to help make someone safer is actually identifying them as a potential victim. So there's a lot of stuff that was tied up in this that we said, we can do something better here. We can really make a difference. So we came up with this suite of products. We took them to sort of at the end of our apprentice type.
Wait, you did this in 16 weeks?
We did it in 16
It's
weeks.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we came up with we got
I thought you were just giving me 2 years worth of work.
No, this was the 16 weeks. Yeah. So we got them made. We got a designer from Manchester to kind of help us come up with the ideas and to help put the products together. We got them made, handmade in the UK. And then we got them kind of screwed to a wall to show how they would look in a bathroom. And we took them to this kind of big presentation where we had to do a big pitch. So the whole journey was like The Apprentice, but then the pitch we had to do was like Dragon's Den. They had like a panel, and we had to kind of say, this is what we've come up with in this 16 weeks. So we pitched, we were lucky enough at the time that the Prime Minister happened to be at the housing conference, and we got a 30-second pitch with her, and it just blew up. People were just like, this is such a simple idea, but why has no one thought of it before? Why aren't we kind of doing better for our tenants, for our residents? So there was a huge push. People were asking to buy these products. We had 4 of them screwed to a wall in London. We were like, we can't sell them. We hadn't tested them or anything at that point. And then we got invited to number 10 as well. So we've got this 30-second pitch. It was Theresa May at the time. And because ageing was such a big agenda for the government, they then kind of invited us to number 10 for a round table. Again, we got all of this kind of support, and we thought, we're just like 6 Northerners who have come up with a really simple idea, not expecting to get any of this attention and any of this kind of backing and support. And then we ended up in number 10, and we had like 800 kind of housing people who wanted to kind of invest or buy in the product. And it was at this point, after the 16 weeks, we were supposed to go back to the day job. It was supposed to be like, oh yeah, well done, you came up with an idea, just go back to your job now. And that's when it clicked for me to say, absolutely cannot do that. I was like, I've promised my gran that she will have these rails in her house. I can't let her down. So we kind of, a couple of us just couldn't let it go, and went back to our organisation. We kind of tried to put together a business case. Not that we knew that much about putting together that kind of thing at that point in time. We went out for investment, and we got the backing of some housing associations who helped then turn us into a business, which kind of, I guess, brings us to the January 2020, which is when we incorporated officially. So it was a bit of a whirlwind journey, really. And it was learning a lot in a very short space of time, because I worked in PR and comms marketing. So I didn't know anything about aging, didn't know anything about running a business, didn't know anything about product manufacturing, design. But I think, again, I guess going back to what I'd said earlier, that if you believe in something, you're passionate about it, it doesn't matter. You can kind of drive through and get to the point that you need to make it successful, as long as you collaborate and bring the people on board that can help with the areas that you don't know about. So yeah, it has been a bit of a crazy journey, to be honest.
Honestly, I just think it's incredible, because I'm a chartered mechanical engineer, and we used to do uni modules. We did one to design better wheelchairs. One was actually with families with cerebral palsy. How could you help improve their lives? And that's what kind of grabbed me. So actually, one of my former guests is a lady called Elena, and she taught that module. But the idea that kind of twigged to me to actually genuinely improve people's lives, it was massive. And I've kind of now taken that course as well. But it was almost to hear you do it, and especially as an English background, or English major, as the Americans would say, it's amazing, because you'd think you would need product design or mechanical engineering or whichever. So genuinely, like, super, super impressive. And but again, it shows that almost anyone can do anything if you put your mind to it and actually approach it from your marketing background. I guess helped, because you saw it from the viewpoint of the customer. Because the other thing that I really love about your brand is the fact that it's a premium brand. It's not a functional
Yeah.
probably what existed before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we've tried to keep it away from that kind of clinical looking brand. We've tried to, we're really trying to change the narrative
Hmm.
on products and services for older and disabled people. And a lot of other people are doing incredible stuff around that. But that's really at the heart of it for us, is that we just think that not enough is being done
Yeah.
to kind of move away from that negative stigma. So I think, yeah, it was just really important for us to have a company and a brand and products, the whole
Hmm.
package, that just reflected that vision of a better option, and actually that, dignity should be at the heart of all design, whether it's in your home, whether it's something that you use kind of when you're out and about, anything really, because a lot of the time people are made disabled by their environments.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that they've got an innate disability. It's just that the way that their house is just means that they can't move around it, in a way that they used to be able to. So yeah, that's definitely kind of what we're around, is just giving something kind of a different spin on it, I guess.
But it is super cool. And again, you've found the niche, because that's always the big thing with anyone's business. It's to find something which you're passionate about, that you think people have missed or underrepresented, and you just feel that you can do it better, and actually just bring a different viewpoint. Honestly, I like, obviously I'd Googled you and done stuff before the call, but it's so cool what you're doing. And then who's in the business now? Is it you and one other, or do you have a team, or?
So we've got a small team as it stands. So we have just kind of four of us who are full time
Wow.
in the business. So we kind of are split into two on sales and marketing and two on kind of product design and kind of the manufacturing element. But I think the key thing for us is that we've built some really strong partnerships
Yeah.
with other businesses and organizations that have helped make us what we are.
I was going to ask, so do you sell to trade, I'm guessing, or do you have B2C and B2B?
We've got both. So we initially, because it was all born out of that kind of social housing
Yeah.
sector initiative, everything that we did at the very start was around working with housing
Hmm.
associations and getting stuff into kind of their new builds, into their kind of planned bathroom works, all that kind of stuff. And we hadn't really thought about how do we sell this to others, because we just hadn't got that far down the line. But we kept getting asked the question, well, my mother-in-law wants
Hmm.
one, or my neighbor wants one, like how can I just buy one for them? So things have kind of moved quicker than we anticipated, just because there's more demand for the type of product we have than we initially thought. So we now actually have kind of an e-commerce site that we've set up to sell them directly through us. And we've got a range of relationships with some other kind of e-commerce
Hmm.
providers online. Mobility shops have kind of got in touch, and it's been really good for me in terms of that people have come to us and sought us out what we're doing, because people
They like
want
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there just isn't enough of that. So people stumble across us when they're looking for a
Hmm.
better option, which is fantastic. So, for a business that's very young, it's great to have seen the support that we've got. And we've got a long way to go. There's no doubt about that. We've got a lot of product development we want to keep doing. And we're really early days with the kind of B2C stuff, but we've definitely started to make an impact, which is great.
Because especially with the kind of growth in the aging population, it's a market that's growing.
Yeah.
And especially, honestly, I think you've nailed it. I think it's awesome. Has anyone tried to buy you yet? And you don't have to answer that if you don't want to. I can see how a bigger brand would just bolt you onto. I'm going to keep moving so I don't make you answer that question, because I don't want it to be difficult, but I can imagine someone might. But as again, in the past, I've run companies where we have physical stock. And actually, the cash involved, the space involved, your stock turns, how much you do. The former employer I used to work at, we used to do a lot of locks, latches, and hinges for public cubicles and toilet doors and football stadiums and stuff. I think it's public. We used to get them made in China and bring them across. But we had even in that particular business, we had 12 people to pack and bag and turn stuff. And I know how difficult a logistics operation is.
Yeah.
But that's almost why I really, really respect it, especially for four kind of people.
Yeah, we rely really heavily on kind of some of the people that we've partnered with.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, we just couldn't do it ourselves. It was just an impossible task, like you've said. It's, the resource that it takes to even just get a product
Yep.
made, get it into a warehouse, get it shipped out. It's huge. So we actually partnered with a big kind of wet room,
Hmm.
bathroom
Hmm.
specialist, and they're called ProCare, based in Wigan, who they've been doing bathrooms and wet rooms for 20 odd years. They know the whole process. They've got a great kind of system in place with supply chain, warehouse relationships. So they actually kind of we've bolted ourselves onto their process,
Perfect.
and they are huge for us in terms of supporting our kind of logistics and operations. So I get to go out and do all the fun stuff, and kind of get to speak to everyone and kind of sell the dream, I guess, as it were, of Invisible Creations. And ProCare do all of the really heavy lifting behind the scenes for us.
Perfect. Because that's one of the classic issues that my next question was almost going to be, what are the main challenges you found in like the first 2 years? Because I guess you would have had fairly stringent like product testing to do.
Yes.
And then just, a lot of the people I work with, if you're looking to make your first batch of stock, it's expensive, it's cash, it's timing, it's negotiation with B2B and B2C resellers and stock
Yeah.
it. And there's so much to do. I just didn't know how you found the first kind of 2 years.
Yeah, I think that was our most difficult area, was how do we get these products made?
Yeah.
So we'd had the idea, I think it was in 2018, and we didn't start the business till 2020. And that's because it just took us
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
year and a bit to actually try and, if we're going to make this into a business, how would we even go about doing it? What do we know about manufacturing? So we'd had to go out and kind of have those conversations with people who have already been working in that space, because obviously there's the kind of UK versus overseas arguments. And if we were going to go and try and have some conversations in China about manufacturing a product, it's really difficult for
Yeah.
us to be able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do that. We didn't have the money, the cash to be able to go out and have those conversations, or in fact the knowledge of all of the parts that need to be put together to make sure that it's the right product. So that was probably the most difficult thing, is getting the right relationships in place, people we can trust to deliver what we need to
Hmm.
put products together. And that's exactly where ProCare came in, to kind of say, look, we've got all this experience, we've got these
Perfect.
relationships, we believe in what you are trying to achieve, and have supported us with that. And I think any startup business would probably fail if they thought they could do everything on their own, because it's just impossible. I think the biggest lesson for me has been that collaboration,
Yeah.
because that has been the kind of the biggest success for us, is the people that we've been working with, and always remembering that people are at the heart of what we're doing. So trying to solve a problem for people, but with people, not just giving them a solution and saying, here you go. It's got to be an inclusive process. And that people-centered design element has always been at the heart of what we've done. So I think, yeah, the manufacturing element was the biggest hurdle, I guess,
Yeah.
for us to get over initially. And then obviously the pandemic really didn't help us. We launched a business 3 months before the pandemic hit.
Same.
Um, yeah, which is just, the fact we're still here and smiling, Steve, I think is, definitely a positive, and shows that we're very resilient.
But no, honestly, I think it's awesome, and it's those kind of challenges that you go through, and from a business strategy point of view, and as someone that's ran suppliers, it makes perfect sense to have people that you can hit with a stick if they don't make what you want,
Yeah.
as opposed to if you put your own cock in the block to kind of make stuff to the right spec and you get something wrong, it can be very expensive. So it's about finding that balance as you grow, and it sounds like you've absolutely kind of nailed it. What's the dream for the business?
So for us, I mean, we started off with 4 products.
Hmm.
We've still got those 4 products, which is great, and we've kind of expanded on that. But for us, it's more about, it's not just about the products. We're not just here to sell these kind of 4 products. And for us, it's more around, what more can we do,
Yeah.
and use the voice that we've got as Invisible Creations and as some of the stakeholders that we work with, to actually make a bigger impact on this market, and
Hmm.
actually say, it's not okay to provide these services and products, for older and disabled people. Actually, we should be completely shifting that over to something that is, aspirational and desirable and makes people feel good and
Yeah.
isn't a reminder of things that people just don't want to be reminded of. So for us, we see that our mission's a lot bigger than just providing these kind of, I guess, grab rails in disguise is what I call them sometimes, because that's kind of what they are. So we're about more than that. So we want to kind of change the narrative on it, and we want people to think about accessibility earlier and think about kind of adapting homes earlier. And actually, if we think about prevention and we make changes in the home, 10, 20, 30 years before they're needed, you're going to have a much safer environment for a lot longer. You're going to prevent falls. You're going to prevent people, fracturing hips and ended up in hospital. And, there's a whole host of things that are a benefit if you start to make these changes earlier in life. And I think a lot of the time in the past, it's been a budget thing. It's that actually these grab rails are super cheap and doing something early is going to cost us more money, so we're not going to do it. But actually, morally, we need to think about that a little bit different, because it's not always about, the cheapest product and getting it out in mass. It's actually about quality, and it's about people's lives at the end of the day. If you can spend a little bit more money up front to future-proof a home and to protect that person to live more independently and well, for me, it's a no-brainer. But actually, there's a massive journey for us to go on to convince landlords and to convince builders that that's the way to go, that actually accessibility from the very start. And I guess it's just at a simpler level. We want to come up with a more of a whole house solution. So you would have a whole home that's fully accessible, fully adaptable, but it's just super desirable, aspirational, looks really good. It hasn't got any of that clinical, hospitalized design elements in it. So for us, we're kind of looking at the bathroom and the outside of the property, but we want to look at the whole home, kind of like a holistic solution, really. That's long term, because obviously, we've discussed that it takes a lot of time, a lot of money to develop new products. But again, we're kind of partnering with others that can help speed along that process, and provide just that, better quality design.
Sounds perfect. Because almost from a marketing point of view, one of the things that I always struggle sometimes when you work with different businesses, it's to find something to talk about which you're passionate about, but actually relates to the product, but it's part of a bigger issue. And it sounds like you've nailed that, because you will get people where you can be a voice for them about accessibility, but that it's stylish and that people want it, it's desirable. That, do you use Facebook groups much? Because for some of my clients, just when you have communities that discover something that you have. So I remember years ago with the cerebral palsy case I mentioned before, we developed some new software to go on to, it was before iPads came out, because I'm old, but we figured out a new way to put stuff onto those machines. And as soon as people started to talk about it in the groups, oh, well, I want it. And it almost as a way to get viral word of mouth marketing.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've nailed it as well.
Yeah, I think we've probably got a lot more we can do with some of those elements, like the social media elements. I think getting more involved and getting kind of more feedback and ideas. And, we're only as good as the kind of feedback that we're getting from people, because our ideas and our inspiration come from people that are living those experiences on a daily basis. So we have to keep that inclusive element and that people-centered to be successful, really. And we're doing it because we want to, improve lives and transform homes. And so, yeah, I think for me, that's probably the next step for us, is to how can we get a little bit more 21st century with some of our kind of online groups and forums and getting that feedback. Because I think we did a lot of it face-to-face to begin with, because we had access to kind of tenant forums and groups, and we went to kind of like tea dances and all these places where kind of older people hang out. But actually the world we've lived in has changed so dramatically that a lot of those groups aren't as accessible to get to for us as they were. So yeah, I think that's an area that is just going to keep growing and growing, isn't it, in terms of using that online resource to develop your business and contact your customers.
No, cool. Honestly, I think it's brilliant. So as we kind of go through the interview, there's just certain questions that I always ask everyone. And I really like this bit just because it's a way to share knowledge and learn and that kind of thing as well. Would you be happy to share what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
I think for me, it's kind of go for the things that scare you. So I probably used to shy away from, funnily enough, shy away from anything that was public speaking, anything that kind of had me have to get up on a public platform. Um, and I think it's generally because I didn't feel like what I had to say people would
Was
want to
valued.
listen. Yeah. And I think that was just my insecurities that kept me from doing that. And then really I've learned from that. Someone said, actually going for it, you're going to learn so much more from doing those things that scare you and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I have, I kind of, I'm quite used to getting up on a stage now and speaking about invisible creations, but I think it's made easier because I'm so passionate about it that I could kind of talk about it all day long. So I think that for me was a big learning curve, because the first time I had to get up on that stage back in 2018, I was a bag of nerves, didn't want to do it, kind of didn't sleep for so long beforehand. And I probably would have said, no, I'm not doing it, I'm not getting up there. But again, it was that someone had said to me, you've got to go for the things that scare you, because that actually they will make the biggest impact in your life. And absolutely it has, because that's probably why I'm here now.
No, amazing. Because the other side to it as well is that because you're genuinely making products which improve people's lives through speaking on a podcast or doing whatever it is that you're doing, there might be someone in the audience that discovers it, that then tells their parents about it, their grandparents. So when you've got a mission and you can help spread the word of the mission, you're not actually necessarily doing it for you, you're doing it for everyone who could benefit. Does that make sense? But I think what you're saying is very common. And even before we came on, I joked that I still get nervous doing these, and I do them every week. But because there's always that element or worry about, will people judge or whichever.
Yeah.
But actually, if you're passionate about something, it's because it's tough doing your own thing, and it's brave, and in many ways it's easier to just have a paid job. So to actually kind of do this and go through all the sleepless nights and so I really kind of genuinely applaud it. Can I ask you, the next question is, what advice would you give to your younger self? And you can pick you at school, you at uni, whatever you wish.
I think probably I would tell myself, don't worry about things going wrong. I think I always used to really get concerned about making mistakes or being a failure, and letting people down. And actually, some of the things that have happened along the way, and some of the best things that have happened is because a mistake has been made, or something's gone wrong, and actually you've taken such a huge amount of learning away from that you've been able to propel yourself into another position. Or some of the things in terms of even like product design, you might design kind of like 100 things, but you might only use one of them. And it's kind of that using that application in life and thinking, actually, I might do 100 different things at work and not all of them are going to go right, but actually that's okay, because you'll learn so much from it. And I think it's just sometimes embracing that failure rather than just it happening and you trying to like forget that it's ever happened. Actually, embracing it, learning from it, and you'll be stronger for it.
Awesome. Is there anything you would like to talk about or plug before we go?
So I'm going to take the opportunity. So we're always in a new business. We're trying to grow. We're always looking for new ideas, new people to talk to, new companies to work with. So I guess really it's just from all of those different angles. If you've got, I always say that everyone's got a Sheila. So my gran was called Sheila. I always say everyone's got her. So it could be a neighbor, it could be a mom, it could be a friend. So if you've got someone that you see is struggling around the home, they're getting older, they've got mobility issues, they don't want that horrible kind of plastic clinical looking design, check Invisible Creations out. You'll find us online. There is a better option. But anyone that's, equally got ideas or is working in kind of, that housing area and wants to collaborate and wants to look at how do we design better, please get in touch. We've got, a website, invisiblecreations.co.uk, several social media pages. And they'll all come to me. Obviously, we've only got 4 of us in the business, so it does all root back to me.
No, because I've got a friend called Tom that runs a washroom accessibility business. So I'm going to put him in touch with you as well. And then likewise, on the more the B2B side, but one of my former employers, we used to sell to a lot of washroom manufacturers, but do schools, football stadiums, that kind of thing as well. So I can happily put you in touch with those guys, because ironically, they used to supply into like 200 people that fit out bathroom stuff around the country. So I might see if I can get you some sneaky introductions. I love what you do. I'd love to, see it be successful. Well, it is successful, but see it be even more successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
No, cool. Well, genuinely, thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure to kind of meet and that kind of thing. If anyone's got any questions for Laura, drop them in the chat. And what we do is this all gets clipped up and goes onto YouTube. There'll be a best bits which goes back onto LinkedIn. But no, honestly, it's been a pleasure. And thank you for your time. And hopefully we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Cheers. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.